So recently, a subscriber asked me my thoughts on the future of the Mini brand in the US, specifically related to a video he recently watched from Doug Demuro, which referenced the Mini brand as a wild card as potentially leaving the US in the next 5 years or so. He wanted to know my thoughts on the matter, and frankly, I'm a little concerned. So recently it was brought to my attention that Mini had canceled plans to bring the J01 hardtop and J05 electric Mini Aceman to the US market, at least for the time being. Now, whether this is permanent or temporary, I don't know, but it does create a bit of a concern, and that is, what do you replace those vehicles with in the US market, because those cars were highly anticipated, and now they're not going to be here. And I say highly anticipated, at least for those of you out there who genuinely wanted the new electric Mini. I know a lot of you out there aren't exactly fans of those cars. But hear me out. I am very disappointed that those vehicles are not coming to the US market. I really wanted a chance to get to drive them, and now it looks like I'm not going to get that chance unless I go to the European market and drive those vehicles. On top of that, the electric convertible, the J03, has also been canceled. So that creates a bit of a dilemma, and what happens in the next 5 years when Mini is supposed to go fully electric that they don't have those cars? Well, you'll be surprised to know that Mini has also decided to delay going fully electric. So this could bring up the possibility of maybe going hybrid, given the fact that they already offer the U25 Countryman as a mild hybrid in the European market. So there is that possibility. But here's another possibility that I have. I think Mini missed an opportunity here because yes, the F66 is not a bad vehicle. I think it's pretty nice, but there are people out there who don't like it. And it's largely to do with, one, its very simple styling, two, its lack of paddle shifters with the DCT transmission, and three, the lack of a manual gearbox, which if you had the manual gearbox would basically negate the dislike for the lack of paddle shifters. But I digress. With those things there, and the fact that the car has a very polarized styling, particularly the taillights, I know a lot of people out there have said that that is their least favorite feature of the vehicle, you create a situation now where you have a car that's on a heavily refreshed UKL1 platform from the F56, and you're now going to have to extend the life of that car potentially because you don't have a vehicle that is going to replace it in 2030. So here's the thought I had. I think Mini might have missed the opportunity to do this. I think they should have taken the styling of the J01, which I thought was pretty nice. And I think what they were supposed to do, and what they said they were doing, was they were creating a vehicle where it was the power of choice. You could choose between electric and internal combustion, so you had that option, and there was going to be nothing else with the car. The problem is, despite the fact that the cars look similar, they aren't. One's on a completely different platform, one's on an older platform. I think Mini should have created the J01 on a platform that could have also used an internal combustion engine. Now here's a thought I had. If there's room for it, they could have created the space where the battery and electric motor is all located. They could have inserted in a chassis for a internal combustion engine. So you have your fuel tank, you have your engine, you have everything you need in there to have an internal combustion car. And effectively, the J01 would have been both the internal combustion and the electric car. I think the J01 styling is really nice. I tend to like it. I know some people out there don't, but I actually think it's a pretty good looking car. But the thing is, Mini didn't do that. They've left an opening in the market for a vehicle that they no longer have or are no longer bringing over. So what do you put there? What do you do when the U25 ages out? What do you do when the F66 ages out? Because it's going to happen eventually. The F56 was starting to get a little bit long in the nose up until a certain point until they replaced it. I think there's an opportunity there, and I think Mini might consider taking the electric offerings that they now have that are currently being produced with Spotlight motors in China, and which would have eventually been built in Oxford, and I think they could take those designs, and when the LCI comes out in 2026, maybe create internal combustion versions of those cars. Because you see, there is a precedent for this. Porsche has been working on internal combustion variants of its electric cars, potentially for the upcoming model years, as they have now decided to scale back plans to go full electric as well. Lotus has completely abandoned going fully electric at the moment. Mercedes is scaling back their electric plans. Even BMW is scaling back a lot of their electric plans. So you have the J01, which is not a bad vehicle, and you have the J05 Aceman, which really is a good-looking car when you think about it. It is more of an angular Mini Countryman. So they could take that car and the new J01 and create an LCI for those vehicles that involves bringing in an internal combustion engine. This would then allow them to retool the Oxford plant to build those two cars as internal combustion cars. This could also potentially allow them at that point to consider making the electric ones as well. But now the plant is able to build just those two vehicles and not have to worry about having the F66 running on an older platform and the J01. So there is that possibility. But there is another thought I had with those two cars not coming to the US, and that is, this creates an opportunity for Mini to potentially resurrect a nameplate, perhaps? Bring a model back that a lot of people really like the Clubman. That's a really cool car that people really enjoy. You hear that, Mini? You have a chance here. Why don't you do it? Come on. You know you want to. While I do like the way the current generation of the Mini looks, I know a lot of people out there are not necessarily fans. I don't think that that is the end of the Mini brand in the US market. I think that right now it's just in a time frame where people don't necessarily like the looks of the cars, but if history has shown us anything, they didn't like the F56 or F60 when those vehicles came out. And for that matter, they didn't like the R56 when that car came out, despite the fact that the R56 was actually just a heavily refreshed R53. Bet you didn't know that. That should be put into a video of things you didn't know about the Mini brand. There's my thoughts on it. I don't necessarily think the Mini brand is going away. I think it's going to be here in the next 5 years. I think it's probably going to be here in the next 10 years in the US market. There would have to be one model left in the US market for BMW to decide to pull the plug. And if they decide to pull the plug, that's bad news for me, because that means I'm going to have to end this channel and think of another vehicle to do videos about. Perhaps I may just bite the bullet and do BMW. Maybe an M3? Maybe a 3 Series wagon? If you haven't guessed, I've been thinking about this. But until next time, I want to thank you all for watching, and if you like what you see, check out more content on this channel at the end of this video, and thanks for watching.